Alright, and we're live. We're live. We're up. That's it. No more cussing. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Red Path. I'm turning chat off on the screen because it looks broken. So there we go. Alright, so here we are. It is Sunday the 7th, I can't even say the number, of August. And we've had a little while now to process our Chaos Space Marine list, World Eater stuff going on, and it's time to start taking them to some big events, some GTs, some majors, things like that, with the new rules, and see if we can really throw down. So Dara, myself, and Jack are going to have a little chat today. We've all got some decent events coming up, and we're just going to have a little talk about what we're taking to these things, because we've all got pretty different lists. There's some similarities there, obviously, because there always will be, but we've got some different archetypes going on here, and we're going to kind of get a feel for what we expect to do, and we're going to kind of chat about playing into some of the meta lists right now, I guess. Seems to be there's quite an upsurge in World Eaters players, actually. I know at the event these guys are going to here in a bit, there's quite a few on the books. So yeah, we're just going to kind of talk about that. But if anyone is currently watching and in the chat, going to ask for an audio check. First off, let me know if you can hear me. But Dara, why don't you say hello, and then Jack say hello, and we'll get these audio levels going.
What's up, everyone? Great to be here as always. Happy to hang out and chat World Leaders. We're going to have some fun conversations, some fun smack talk going on tonight. See who comes out on top. But yeah, awesome to see all the new kind of rules starting to hit the table in a big way, and big events coming up in the next couple of weeks that are really going to tell how much adaptation we've been able to do to kind of change how certain things operate and see how we fall in these bigger events.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for having me back, guys. It's always good fun, especially when I've got the prospect of smashing Dara around next week. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, the smack talk between you two has been quite impressive in the group chat there. Every day there's like 100 messages of you two insulting each other's lists and things like that. It's great. It's very motivating to wake up to, I've got to tell you.
Yeah, man. I mean, if you ever come over to our side of the water, you'll be able to get in on it too.
Yeah, like I've said a couple of times, I'm just letting you two, do your little slap fight first, and then I'll just come in and clean up the mess. I'll take both of you on at once. I don't care. Easy. All right. Well, so you two are both going to Leeds, right?
Yes.
Leeds, and that is next weekend.
13, 14 August.
Okay. And you're meeting up first to play at Warhammer World, right?
Sure. Yeah, it's gonna be big.
all right. Tell us about that, Jack. Tell us why is this happening? Why is there a grudge match? I mean, we're all friends, right?
Basically, Dara is a large dreadnought pusher, and I can't get past that. And it's just too much for me. I like the models, but I don't like them competitively, and Dara can't stop pushing them on anyone and everyone he talks to, just in the street, in his Discord, wherever. Just the large dreadnoughts are the best unit in the game, and that's too much. I'm here to put a stop to it.
Wow. Okay, that's an aggressive opening salvo there, Dara. What's your counterpunch there?
I mean, they are, the best unit in the game. The only reason they're not coming with me to Leeds is because they're still illegal, which sucks. But it's a tried and tested formula. I've been to a couple of GTs, a super major with the Leviathans. They've done really well for me, and I'm just confident in my superiority over Jack, even without the Leviathans. I know in my heart and soul, we go to Warhammer Worlds, we have a nice little walk through the exhibition. We're like, oh yeah, look at the nice things there, blah blah blah. All the while, I'm going to be like dripping little things into his brain, like getting in his head. As soon as you start throwing those dice, be like, it's a lot of ones there, Jack. It's unfortunate, isn't it? Oh, your Red Butchers have all died in the first round of combat. That sucks. But be me, all this kind of stuff going on. I'm confident, and yeah, it's gonna be a really fun time, I think.
Okay, we do have some audio issues apparently.
No, really?
Yeah. So first off, Dara's mic selected correctly. Try turning yourself up a little bit because I adjusted you down.
I can just move my mic closer if that's a little bit better.
I see that. I think we're getting a little bit of feedback on my mic, so let me adjust that. Hopefully that clears some things up. Just keep letting us know in the chat. It's a bit difficult when we've got a Zoom meeting and I don't have a headset right now to kind of get rid of the background noise, unfortunately, because I've got a teenage daughter who loves to steal my shit. And she's not in the house for me to yell at her about it. But we'll try and I'll keep fixing that as we go on. So, alright, so that's your guys' grudge match. Obviously, the winner of that is going to go on to win Leeds. I mean, that's unfortunately how it works. That's how it goes. So, yeah. But how much are you guys looking forward to Leeds? Like your first real big event since the Codex, right? I know you've had some smaller tournaments and stuff in friendly games and whatnot in the meantime, but this is the first big test, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Jack, work with Jack. You can start it off. You're the one with most experience so far. So.
I played games. I played a 3-game RTT, which was like 300 points and higher. And then I ended up playing 5 rounds GT a couple of weeks ago, last weekend, which was fine. But yeah, I feel like a proper super major you'll get a lot of list variation, it won't necessarily be against people you're used to. And so it will be a proper test of the list. I minimally tweaked the list I took back over last week. Minimally. So it would be nice to see how it stands up in a major.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Dara? I know you've been putting in some reps as well.
Yeah, I mean, not as much as Jack by any measure, but getting some practice games in, the WCC is coming up as well, so I've had some kind of higher level opponents to practice against here in Ireland, which has been good too, and then some friends and stuff from previous tournaments. We kind of met up and threw around some dice, and it's really quite interesting. I started off after the Codex dropped, and I tried something completely different. I tried like a big infantry horde list, and to be honest, the games I won, they were fun games, but it really wasn't doing it for me. And recently, I kind of was like, okay, how do I recreate my broadsword list, my Coventry list? That did quite well, suited my playstyle, but obviously not being able to bring drills or leviathans, I had to kind of really switch it up. So I recreated that list, and I have been having a lot of success with it in the practice games. Haven't dropped the game yet, and I hope that I can continue the success with that as we go to Leeds, though I am much less certain. I don't feel, it's weird, I don't feel confident in the list at all, because I'm not bringing the things that I want to bring, if that makes sense. And while I understand the list is doing well, I feel like it doesn't take a whole lot for the list to not do well. I don't know, it's hard to say. But yeah, I'm super excited to put this out in a proper testbed environment with so many players and see okay, how can it do? How much are people going to underestimate the world leaders? How much are people not going to be aware of the new codex and all the things it can do and all these things? I'm really interested to see how it performs in that environment, I think.
Yeah, I think something you mentioned there, getting the reps in and not being as familiar with our army at the moment as we were 6 months ago with our world eaters, right? It is, for me, and I guess you guys would agree, and maybe chat would as well, the biggest thing with the new Chaos Space Marines now is really being able to accept how much more resilient we are. We do a little bit less on the table, like board control wise, it feels like, because we have less units, less speed with the berserkers and stuff, but the stuff is sticking around, and it's getting that the right trigger of you don't need to quite commit so much to some engagements and things like that, and then oh shit, you've got models left afterwards. So that unit of Terminators, for instance, they typically will fight in 2 or 3 rounds, so you're not for me previously, if my Red Butchers fought, I thought, okay, they're going to kill what they touch, but then they're dead. That just isn't the case now, so you've got to kind of build your list with that longevity in mind, right?
100%, yeah. I think the Red Butchers are really the ones that stand out in that comparison. Like you said, it was always like drop them in and then they die. Now it's like I have had games where they just don't get, like they might take 1 or 2 casualties and that's all they take for the entire game, and they're starting on the board walking up, you know? It's ridiculous how powerful they can be when the prayers go off, when you bring the Black Rune of Damnation, and they can really be a linchpin that your army kind of operates around, I found. And I'm really excited to see, because like everyone I've played is well aware of the Red Butchers, you know, just being like friends and stuff, that they know what they can do, and I really want to know what it's going to be like when I play people who just aren't ready for what they're going to put down on the table, you know. And like I know I'm going to tell them, right? I'm going to be like, they do all these things, and people are always going to be like, yeah, no problem, and then they just fall for it, you know.
Jack, what about you?
I can give you some insight on what it's like. I had in my GT, I had an Ultramarine player spent 4 turns shooting his entire army into 8 Red Butchers, and I finished the game with 6. So.
Oh shit!
Yeah. I think Space Marines especially are like just not not able to deal with them, I think, unless maybe Iron Hands, I think, maybe Iron Hands, but I just don't really see how other Space Marine factions can really put up that much against them. There are some armies like Grey Knights, Thousand Sons, Tyranids that can just mortal wound them off the board. It's still their big weakness.
Yeah.
But when you have the Black Rune of Damnation on them, it's always possible that those Psychers are Pearlsing as well on any doubles, which is it's really nice. Yeah, man, they're just crazy good, and it's really interesting to see how lists operate around them now, rather than them being a nice little asset to have inside a list. They're like, it actually is the main function.
Yeah, I think they're already getting quite resilient, like just with the addition of Armor of Contempt and 2-up saves. Because as we talked about like ages ago, 2-up save and Armor of Contempt was already like pretty good. And now they're 3 wounds, and also -1 to wound if you're taking them with rune. And then also you can only hit them on pause and no rerolls. And the no rerolls thing is disgusting as well. And it being in combat as well is the best.
One thing I've been seeing, like reading around in different groups on Facebook, competitive, anything to do with Chaos Terminator specifically, really, is a lot of people are already, it seems to be meta-wise Chaos players, transitioning away from Terminators a little bit and buying more into Chosen and Possessed. I think Possessed have just always been there, but you know, a bit of hobby lag maybe on the scene. And I think that's because of quite a few results, like Russell Tassin with his Black Legion a couple of weeks ago went 5-1 at the was it LSO?
Lone Star, I think. Yeah,
Lone Star maybe. Yeah, LSO. Yeah. And then there was another guy. I think there was an Emperor's Children 5-0 sometime. There've been a few like victories. Now I think there were some like smatterings of Terminators in there, but there was a lot more Chosen and like the other options. And, you know, with the T5 on the Possessed or Chosen being that much cheaper and a bit more mobile and able to go in transports and things like that, I think people are moving away from the general Chaos Terminators tech-wise. And that's fine, and I think that may be a good decision generally, because, you know, we know that T5 is a much better vehicle or vessel for the Black Rune. But you know, no one is talking about World Eaters because we haven't won anything yet. Well, I know that there was a guy, I messaged you guys, I think it was today or yesterday, won an RTT with World Eaters, 3-game, and he had to, it had a Baton, but it also had a Brass Scorpion, so I mean, too legit right there. But we haven't generally been winning things. I know Ben's done well a couple of times. I know Mark just came 3rd yesterday. So the results are coming in, but it's more like the upper tier players are doing what they were doing anyway, and now we're starting to gain momentum. But I genuinely feel that for World Eaters right now, it is Red Butchers are the source for the Black Rune. I think it's such a wicked combo, you know, with Illusory Supplication as well. I can't really justify whether I throw 9 Barkers on there or 10 Chosen or 10 Possessed. Every time I want my Red Butchers to be as buffed up and resilient as possible, because they don't need a Black Mace. They don't really need anything else.
I think the difference between us and the other legions is for other legions, you can make the Terminators really unkillable, but their damage output just isn't necessarily there.
Right, yeah.
Whereas Possessed have that damage output in other legions, but they're like comparable power between Possessed in World Eaters versus Red Butchers in World Eaters.
Yeah.
We can make them quite resilient, not quite as resilient as like the Max,
Yeah.
but like because you need like Slanesh and Iron Warriors and shit like that.
Yeah.
You can't make them quite as resilient as that, but you can make them really hard to shift. And then they also have the kill power, so they dictate the game a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas something that's not that, like other Terminators, which wouldn't be necessarily be that killing, you just target them and they won't necessarily be able to hit their way out of it.
Yeah.
So you on Possessed, they can kill a lot more, I think, especially stuff like word bearers and yeah. But I think the difference for us is that our Terminators are very killy as well, and I think that's why. The Red Butcher's upgrade alone is why you take Terminators in World. So
yeah, I think, and let's just because we want to get into our sort of GT tech here. You're both taking Red Butchers, right?
Yep.
yeah,
Okay, how many have you got, Dara?
I've got 8.
Jack?
I've got 8 as well.
Okay, I'm the odd man out with a full 10, but you know what? I don't care.
I would do 10, but like 8. You know, 8 is just too good.
I just can't find them.
I could find the points,
start with them.
and I have chosen to bring Spawn.
I start. 10 Red Butchers is now the first thing in my list, and you know it has its additional like apostle and stuff like that. But yeah, okay. So let's look at these lists. Just the broad strokes here. Dara, tell us about your list first. Give us the overview of it. And let's kind of talk about it a bit.
Okay, cool. So my list starts the game on 1 CP. It is a battalion. I'm bringing a Demon Prince with wings and a Hellforce sword. He is my warlord. He has the Mantle of Traders and he has Unholy Fortitude. So Mantle of Traders gives him reroll hits in combat. It allows him to project his aura to another core unit on the battlefield, anywhere on the battlefield, so they get reroll once. And it also gives him, once per game, a free use of an Epic Deed stratagem, in this case, Skulls for the Skull Throne, to regain D3 CP for now 0 CP. And Unholy Fortitude gives him a 5+ Feel No Pain. Following on from that, we got a Dark Apostle. He has Illusory Supplication, surprise, surprise, and he has the 2 dudes with him. Then we have, in the troops, we've got 2 10-man cultist squads, just as you always have them, bare bones. 2 5-man berserker squads, and 1 8-man berserker squad. They all have icons, all good there. Moving into the elites, we have quite a packed elite slot. So we have the 8 Red Butchers, they have the Black Rune of Damnation, and they have a Chain Fist on the Aspiring Champion. No Flamers, don't have the points for it. We also have 2 Hellbrutes. They both have a Power Scourge, and they both have a Multi-Melta.
Okay.
Fun meme. And then, speaking of fun memes, we have... Everyone knows that my favorite unit in the game, the Master of Executions. Just as he comes. Okay, let's keep going with the memes, because moving on to the fast attack slot, we have 4 Chaos Spawn.
1 squad of 4?
1 squad of 4, and we also have 8 Raptors and 6 Raptors. Nothing fancy on the Raptors, just Chainsword and Bolt Pistol. And rounding out the list, we have 2 beloved Chaos Rhinos. So the idea of the list was to try and recreate my old GT and Major list, but with the new stuff. So obviously a lot of that had to change. The Hellbrutes take the place of the Leviathans, which is a significant downgrade, but they're not bad. And like the fact that you have to pay for the Mark of Khorne is kind of what made me take the Power Scourge, because it takes you up to 9 attacks at Strength 8, AP2, Damage 2 with the Mark of Khorne, which is like not really that bad at all. And then the multi-meltas are just useful. And I kind of, like in the practice games, they've been fine. Then, obviously, the Terminators. So in 1 Rhino, we have 2 5-man Berserker squads. They're kind of doing all the normal stuff. Like, for me, Berserkers are objective flippers lots of the time, so they will just charge units off objectives and take it. And then we have the big 8-man squad with the Master of Possession in the other Rhino. And the idea for them is that they're basically, they'll hold a flank kind of by themselves, and, well, they'll have a Hellbrute with them. So 1 flank is always going to be a Hellbrute, Master of Executions, and 8 Berserkers. they're literally just going to cart around and be like, cool, we're being really annoying, and there's enough of us here that you have to kind of like dedicate resource to. And every turn, the Demon Prince is passing the mantle of traitors either onto the Berserker squad or onto the Hellbrood, whichever makes more sense. The Master of Executions is actually just a really good blender because he can kind of like lead that flank and just go into things and kill them. So then the main bulk of the like core of the list is the Rhino with the Berserkers, the Red Butchers, the Dark Apostle, the Spawn screening them out to absorb mortal wounds, and the Demon Prince potentially with them as well. And you've got the Cultists in the back doing actions or just moving around, being annoying. The Raptors most likely will be the initial hit. They're going to fly up the board in turn 1 if I go first using a Apoplectic Frenzy. We're going to string them back, give them Transhuman to hit, send them into combat, they'll be annoying. The other Raptor squad, the 6-man, come down later in the game to do Retrieve Nephilim data, because that's still pretty good, I think. And then the Demon Prince, in the matchups that suit him, he is fantastic at getting skulls for the Skull Throne, especially into guys that have fight first abilities, because he has Unholy Fortitude, so he tends to be able to tank those hits. And yeah, look, it's a fine list. I know it's not, I wouldn't say it's like a top tier list. It's not going to win me the event. It's not even going to get me to do quite well. I think I'll be lucky to place like 2 and 3, to be honest, because this isn't the list I want to bring. I want to use all my cool toys. I want to use a Brass Scorpion. I want to do all these cool things, but I can't. I want to bring Possessed, but I can't because they're not out yet. Like, you guys know in the group chat with us, like, I have been giving out so much over the last month of all the things I want to do and can't do. So this is my compromise. But to be honest, I am putting an awful lot of heart into painting this list. I've gotten 10 new Berserkers done that look quite nice. Gotten a new Contemptor done to play as a Hellbrood. My Demon Prince, former Chaos Lord Macalor, has ascended. You can catch the story about that on Instagram. It's ongoing at the minute. So yeah, putting a lot of heart into the painting, and I'm just going there to have fun, to be honest, and see how I do.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean, been following along, obviously, as you've been hobbying on it and you know, developing it with different ideas and stuff. And I mean, I think it can do well. I so 100% agree. Like, it's just the frustrating place we're in right now, not having full access to all our toys, is really annoying. It's been a while now. There's no reason that we should still be so restricted. So it is very much let's just build something that works, does the job, that we can have some fun with. I still think it can do okay though.
I mean, okay is 2 and 3, right?
Yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Know?
But,
and I think it will do
close
like
games on the other ones though. I think that's where you know, if you do lose 2 or 3 games, where the loss difference is. You know, if you're losing by 80 points, then yeah, but if you're losing by that kind of 10-15 point range or even less, it shows that there's still stuff to the list even when it's not optimized. But it's done well for you in practice, right?
Yeah, so I actually haven't lost with the list yet, which is annoying because I want to find out where it's weak.
Maybe it is the list.
I don't think so. Like, they're a meme, but like Spawn are really good. Like, they're really annoying. Like, there's been times where I'm like, I'm not going to roll those saves because you can't do enough wounds to kill one, so he just regenerates, like that kind of a thing. And they're so good at like just sponging mortal wounds into like armies like Thousand Suns and stuff. They're just there and they're like, cool, this is a brick of like 16 mortal wounds that you're going to have to get through before you can touch like proper things. And like, I don't know, I kind of like them. Yeah, look, it's been doing okay in practice. I haven't gone first with the list yet, so I want to see how it does if I can get the Raptor Alpha off, because like, you know, I think that is like quite an important part. And a lot of the time I like lose the Raptors really early because just the way that like there's a lot of things that have to be deployed that not everything can be in cover, and I always want the Terminators in cover and stuff like that. And gotta kind of like commit to putting the Raptors out in front to hope I get the first turn. Haven't yet. I want to see what they do because they're pretty killy now. But yeah, like I mean, look, it's okay. It's doing fine. I'm really just not going over there with a lot of confidence in it, despite how it's doing. It's really weird. I can't explain it. It's like, I think it's because like I love my other list so much, and I'm like, I just want to bring that and I have a brass scorpion, and I'm like, I want a reason to put this together and paint it, you know? And it's just like, man, like, why do I have to use like shitty Hellbrutes, you know? Like, I hate these guys. They're so bad. And like, they are so bad. They're the weakest part of my list. Like, someone looks at them and they explode, you know? I had one step on a fucking landmine from a Gene Stealer Saboteur, and he just blew up immediately. I was like, are you kidding me? Like,
it happens. It happens.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how we do. I'm just gonna have a good time. My main excitement is to get to play Jack in Warhammer World. Everything after that is secondary.
Well, I know, like Jack's been specifically tailoring his list to perfectly counter your list. So
I've never seen a sweatier World Leader player than Jack. You know, it's like it's. And when we go through his list, we'll see why.
Yeah. Well, why don't we do that, Jack? Why don't you tell us what try-hard whack stuff you're bringing?
I thought I told Dara I was bringing Drakari from Leeds, but you're gonna pressure me into World Eaters. No, so I've got Demon Prince, similar to Dara's, but without Unholy Fortitude. So Mantle of Traitors, Sword, Wings. Dark Fossil with Transhuman to hit, Illusion Supplication, Mark of Khorne, but otherwise Bear. I am bringing a Baden at the moment. It's just fun to run at the moment. I just wanted to test him last weekend, and it turns out he's quite fun. So I'm gonna keep bringing him. I've then got a squad of 10 cultists, just bare bones, 2 squads of 5 berserkers. It's a fairly recent change from 3 squads down to 2, and then this is the only tweak that I've made to the list. And then elites, they're brick of terminators, red butchers, 8 of them, 2 combi flamers and a heavy flamer in there, and then a double accursed on the champion. And then I've got 2 squads of 5 possessed, just converted up from beakies because I have loads of them lying around. Fast attack, 1 individual chaos spawn just to like be a nuisance, be something that has to get shifted or just hide at the back. I then have a squad of 6 raptors, very similar reasons to Dara's, useful for actions. R&D is still a useful option. Can't say I've taken it that much. I know, in fact, I only took it once last weekend, but it's
a choice.
It's the choice, and they're useful for other actions as well, like for the Dark Gods they can drop in and do as well. And they're quite useful for just as like a harassing unit. With 12 wounds, they're just a bit irritating to shift now. Yeah. Especially if they're like right at the back or like hiding or whatever. They require more than like incidental resources. I'm then taking, this is where the points from the second spawn and the third spawn of Berserkers have gone. 2 Vindicators instead of 1 now. Right. Both with Havoc launchers. Mark, I think, is in the chat. Mark's battle report yesterday was convincing for me because it was something I thought about doing anyway. Because I had felt towards the end of the old book and the index period that my infantry horde list was lacking some firepower, and I ran into some fairly hard counters. Like, well, what I thought were hard counters, like with lots of fight lasts, so like space walls and stuff like that. I just realised I didn't really have any way to deal with fight last if they were just in a very killer unit. So yeah, 2 Vindicators. The one I took last weekend did a lot of work, which was very, very funny. The last bit of text on my list, which is to support the Vindicators, I'm running a Noxlift Crown for my battlefield. I ran it last weekend. There was 1 out of 4 games where I couldn't deploy it exactly where I wanted to, but it was a very useful CP battery all tournament long, and saved my Vindicator from the silent gig.
Wow, so, that's huge.
So I was saying before we came on, I think it feels like a really weird list to me because it feels like I've just chucked a load of fairly strong individual data sheets in, or like fairly efficient data sheets in, and gone like, now work. I ended up finding last weekend that more often than not, Abaddon was putting his rerolls on himself, and then the mantle was going on the Terminators, and so I spent 3 CP on the Terminator squad, 1 on Mantle, and then 1 on Abaddon's 3 Warlord traits. And basically, I just had the Death Star, like 700 points of Death Star rolling around the middle of the board. obliterating everything except Light Orb Terminators because 4-pin bombs suck. So, but the idea is I think the idea now is push one flank very hard, clear the other flank with shooting, and then win, hopefully.
Seems like a perfectly reasonable plan to me. I think one thing I'm enjoying, because I read Mark's battle reports as well, and there's been quite a few folks going to tournaments recently. I know Fair Rarity went. Sergeant Joel's been. This is over the last few weeks. Like we've had a lot more people talking about going to tournaments and giving like anecdotes and talking about their lists. And obviously we've always got the the Army List channel where people are talking about stuff. And it's really good seeing some of these kind of list factors like spreading out like a bit of a virus, like whether it's the use of Vindicators, which they were great anyway, or they were solid anyway, let's put it like that, and now they are really good, but no one else, at least that I've seen, no other legions are running them, at least not consistently. But I think they do, from something you just mentioned there, Jack, they do fill a very specific role for World Eaters, because all of our kind of alpha units, whether it's our Raptors, our like fast attack stuff, our Terminators, our Berserkers, our heroes, they're all combat. And a little bit of incidental bolt pistol fire or whatever, but we don't have stuff that is laying down consistent actual damage at range, even at mid-range 24. So Vindicators do such a good job. In that role,
I think they're probably our most efficient shooting at the moment, or our most efficient high strength shooting at the moment. We can obviously do like Chosen Terminators are great for volume, combi bolters, flamers, whatever, everywhere. Chosen obviously having the exploding sixes everywhere if they kill something as well being an advantage. But I think the really specific niche, especially with the amount of Chaos Knights lists that appear to be about now. Mm-hmm. Vindicators are good for dealing with them. Like the D6 damage is still not good, but I think because our alternative is a Lamb Raider, which still feels a bit overpriced because of the transport capacity. Drills when they come in will be good, but they're illegal at the moment. Havocs, you have to take Mark of Khorne, and that makes them more points than a Vindicator now. So I like Venom Crawlers are not quite in the right sweet spot for strength. Hell Brutes, I think the mark hurts because I think we want to be taking them half melee, half ranged, and then they're not really, like as Dara says, Power Scourge I think is definitely the way to go because that strength 8 break point is really nice, but because it's not fully committing to one or the other, I think it's going to be in an awkward spot.
But here, this is how they could have fixed Hellbrutes, right? Because I believe with the other 3 marks, they get like decent use out of them, like maybe less so than in some situations. Like the mark of Nurgle might be a bit annoying with the toughness values and stuff. But if they'd have made, for instance, the Melter, like the Hellbrute Melter, strength user or something, like Mark of Khorne immediately would have had value on a Hellbrute. Outside of slightly improving one of the melee weapons. I don't know, it just annoys me. Like Havocs as well, having to take Mark of Khorne. You don't want them in combat unless you absolutely have to. They're not a frontline unit. But yeah, sorry mate, carry on.
I have thoughts and feelings about the mark system as well. I think it's good that it does something, really good that it does something, but I don't think all the marks are created equal at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think points should reflect that.
Yeah.
Don't at the moment, which is fine. Like, I'll take them doing something. It's just a bit like, So as I say, I think Vindicators, especially on a tough mistake, now 2-up platform for 140 points with 12 wounds as well, is by far our most efficient shooting. And until Forge Roll comes out, of course, and the Kratos stage sheet. Because I think I might be swapping both Vindicators for a Kratos.
I can see stuff like that making a difference,
Wartsmith as well, because at that point it's worth taking one Wartsmith to just follow the Kratos around, I think.
Yeah.
300 points and a load of guns, so...
Alright, Dara, are you terrified?
Not at all. No. I mean, it's a sign of Jack's fear of both my player skill, my ability to write a list, and just the power that I'm bringing to the table that he's felt the need to bring a baton. I understand that. I do get it. You know, like it would be quite imposing, quite intimidating to go up against. It's tough, you know, but it's not going to matter at the end of the day. I'm going to put skulls on a baton in our game, skulls for the skull throne, and good old McElroy take his head off, and then he'll just go straight through a baton into your demon prince, take his head as well, just for the fun of it. Probably generate some total of like 8 or 9 CP from the whole thing, swing the whole game. I'll probably put the Red Butchers in Deep Strike, but not actually bring them in because I don't envision that I'm actually going to need them. You know, that kind of a way. I think the Hellbrutes will be big. I think I'll use the Enraged stratagem so that they fire in Jack's turn every turn. And I'm pretty confident in the first turn that's actually going to fire back into a Vindicator and destroy it immediately. So that's part of the game plan as well. There's a lot going on, but I have it all, like, I know exactly what I'm doing.
So for each of those things that don't happen, you've got to do a shot, right?
No problem.
You'll be hammered by the end of Jack's first movement phase.
I mean, it is a tight list. Like, I really like it. And like, I know we were saying, like, you know, it's a lot of strong units, and you just put them on the board and be like, okay, now work. But I'm like, but those units do work. That's the thing. You know, like, you can put them on the board and be like, go, you know, do your stuff, and they will. Like, I really think it's a good list, and obviously, like, I'm not a proponent of the Knock to the Crown, but I can see the power that it brings to a list as well. Like, a Baden is fantastic. He's such a good unit to have in your army. And the Vindicators, I think, like, if I had those models, I'd probably be running Vindicators as well, because they are super efficient. You know, I'd rather have them over my helpers, no problem. I mean, like, all jokes aside going into it, I'm going to lose our Warhammer World game 100%. I am losing that game. But,
Patients like that.
yeah, it's just not happening. I'm not, like, I've been saying it in our chat or whatever, it's like Codex meme lords for me right now. I just don't care enough about the Chaos Space Marine Codex to want to do really, like, superbly well with it. I don't care about, like, practicing enough with it, because I'm like, in a couple of months we're going to have a World Leaders Codex, and I'm going to actually want to master that book. The current book, I'm like, cool, what seems fun? I'll put that stuff together and I'll be like, alright, this is fun. I'll run this around and see what happens. But I'm not like, oh, you know, I'm gonna, like, really dive into the efficiency of every single unit and be like, because I know the Hellbrutes aren't good, I know the Spawn aren't good, I don't really care. I'm just like, it seems like a funny thing. It's a proper, like, the visual of my list is like, you can play this in Dawn of War. You know, and it'll look cool. It's a Dawn of War aesthetic list.
Well, look, you've both given your kind of amateur hour takes here. You know, like,
this is a big brain, Jamie.
Yeah. So look, this is, you know, if I could be bothered to, you know, transport my models over there and just win everything, this is what it'd be. But this is untested. I haven't played a game with it yet. I've played games with variations of it, but I don't think I'm going to get any practice games in with it, to be honest. If I'm lucky, I get a game tonight, but we'll see. But I have changed up. Probably the biggest change in my list is dropping the Disco Lord and the Demon Prince. I've run one, the other, or both ever since the Codex dropped. And I've actually fallen off the hero, you know, destroyer hero bandwagon here. So I'm starting off with a Dark Apostle with Illusory and the Mantle of Traitors, just because the free fail prayers is kind of part of my game plan. Or at least one of the game plans. Then we got a Chaos Lord and Terminator Armor. I've got Violent Urgency on them at the moment. That's just there because I wanted to do something, but it's not dead set. Exalted Power Axe and a Combat Bolter. It's about as cheap as I can make them. But I wanted the Deep Strike ability. I would rather have a Jump Lord, but we don't get Jump Lords. And I'd rather have a Bare Bones Lord, but I need them to be able to Deep Strike. Excuse me. Then we're running with 3 squads of Cultists, 3 squads of Berserkers, all with the Icon, the 10-man Terminators, 2 Heavies, 4 Combi Flamers, and the rest of Combi Bolter and Accursids. Squad of 6 Raptors, which all of us took a squad, at least one squad of 6 Raptors, right? And then Dara's got an 8 as well, yeah. Then we got a squad of 5 Warp Talons. I still do value the Warp Talons. I know that's a choice that every time I bring it up, a couple people are very, why Warp Talons? Similar to the Possessed, they can't receive really any buffs outside of a couple like Fury. Wild Fury.
Fury of Khorne and Wild Fury.
Fury of Khorne, yeah. There's like a couple of other traitorous Astartes ones, but yeah, they're not in it to be buffed for me. They're if I've got no CP, they're not eating CP because they can't eat CP for the most part. They've got good abilities baked into them that are generally going to be very good. The reroll wounds more so than the no fall back. I just think they're still good. And I do start with 1 CP, so depending on what I want to frenzy, it'll either be the Talons or the Raptors, depending on what I want to do. Raptors obviously tech to do the R&D, probably deep striking. Then we have a Chaos Rhino, we have a Noctilith Crown, and then we have 3 Vindicators. Because I've decided to finally start painting my 3rd one. I only got most of the basics.
Well done. Jamie does hobby.
I did some hobby, yeah.
Let's go, dude.
Yeah, it's amazing. And look, I put magnets in my combi bolter arms. It's probably not going to focus there.
Beautiful thing.
They're not primed yet, but yeah.
So that's next year's problem, right?
Yeah. I got a year to actually prime them. But yeah, like a lot of the stuff here is kind of similar to what you guys have already talked about. Like we know what the crown does. It has a job. It generates CP. It provides a bit of extra resilience. It screens out. The Vindicators are there again to just offer that support. They can also screen out. I've got no issue sticking one in each corner. I haven't got any Warp Smiths in there. They're not benefiting from anything other than potentially the 4-up invuln. Which typically they don't generally need, having 2-up with Armour of Contempt, but, you know, going against Tau or something, you may want to. Every problem I've run into with my other versions of lists is either if I've gone all combat orientated, I haven't been able to pop transport, so I've been wasting, you know, quality melee on a Rhino or a Raider or something like that. And I know I need something. The RTT I took 2 Vindicators, and it was a bit annoying because 2 of them failed to pop a single Rhino. It was just like, okay, that's going to happen sometimes. So, you know, to compensate for rolling really bad dice, I'm taking a 3rd Vindicator now because...
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, if I roll bad for 3 Vindicators, I am actually going to officially blame my dice. I'm just gonna do it because that's not fair. Nothing's fair. The game's cheating, and it's bullshit. And I hate this game.
Toys on the floor, tantrum in the store.
Just flip the table. No, but like again, we see the core of the Terminators here with black runes, right? We see the Raptors, that kind of like fast attack element. We're all starting with a CP, right? At least one. Yep. And you know, for anyone watching, make sure you start with at least 1 CP because of that stupid mission where you don't get any CP if you don't control something in no man's land. Because you go second on that, you get screwed. So you want 1 just to at least come out neutral. But having that ability to frenzy something, either get a little bit of aggro. I don't mind throwing 5 Warp Talons if it's going to be something they're going to trade well into, and having that, you know, if I could kill a squad of guardsmen and then touch 2 Lehman Russes afterwards and potentially hold them from falling back. Not that they typically would, but you know, just things like that. It's a nice little option to have, and it's reasonably cheap. It trades well. I maybe have a few too many cultists. I don't know if I necessarily need 3 squads of 10, but if I only run 2 squads of 10, they'll just get picked up turn 1. So again, I'm just overcompensating for errors I've made. Rather than playing better, I just fill in with more shit. You know? Yeah, it is how it goes.
I mean, redundancy works, you know.
Yeah, the problem is I'm losing stuff. Like I've had to drop my Disco Lord to throw in the extra Vindicator and Cultist, basically. But yeah, so that's my list. Again, this is not something I'm super competent with. I'm similar to you, Dara, in that we are still in that Jesus, we still got to wait. Like, we're all just waiting for Codex World Eaters, but in the meantime, we're waiting for the Imperial Armor FAQ. We're waiting for the Kratos data sheet. We're waiting for, you know,
we're still fucking waiting for possessed, dude.
Yes,
like
possessed models. There's so many little things we're just perpetually waiting. At least we're not waiting for 2 wounds, right, Mark? If you're still in the chat, but we're still waiting. It's very frustrating to not be able to play with everything. It reminds me of the Christmas when I was, I don't know, like 8 or 9 years old, and my parents bought me a Sega Genesis or a Sega Mega Drive, and it was the last one in the store, so it was the display one. So when I unwrapped it on Christmas morning, there was no Mega Drive in the box. There was no Genesis in there because it was still in the shop window. The people in the shop had given my parents the box without the Mega Drive. So there's me and my brother sitting there thinking we're gonna get to play Sonic the Hedgehog or whatever, and we fucking couldn't because the fuckers at Argos hadn't put it in the box. That's what I feel like right now. It's very frustrating, but I still want to win. I still want to try and do well with it, right? I still want to do some work. And hopefully, like that's a mentality that everyone playing World Eaters is. So basically, that list I just described would just, you know, steamroll both of yours. So that's the end of the stream, really, right? There's nothing else to talk about. Like, you two just lost.
That's it, cut. Yeah.
Are you coming over to Coventry to back that up in November?
Dude, I would love to. I honestly would. We'll see. Like, I can't even.
8 games, Jamie. 8 games.
8 games across 3 days.
I know.
8.
Look, once we're done here, I'll talk to my wife and daughter and see if they can just not eat for a couple of months, and then we'll do it. Like, problem solved, right?
Sure, that works.
Yeah. All right, so what do you think about the list? Like, do you think dropping the kind of like the Demon Prince role may be a bit of a mistake? Because I was running the Disco Lord, who's not quite as killy as the Prince, but you know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think like after running, like, because I never really ran with like super killy characters before, but after like running with a Prince for a while now, I'm just like, damn, this guy can like hold shit up by himself, you know? He can be like such a. That I think now, if I was to go back and drop it, I would really miss it, I think. But at the same time, I think I could adapt to that, you know? So I wouldn't say that, like, for me, I don't think it's the end of the world, but I think it does kind of potentially lock you out of the ability to actually take Skulls for the Skull Throne as a secondary a lot of the time, especially if it's like, you know, your options are like a Terminator Lord and a Dark Apostle. Like, it's not going to be as easy to get Skulls with either of those 2 characters.
Oh, okay, so here's my plan for that. I'm just not even going to try to get... I mean, I would, you know, say the Terminator Lord, do it, but you get 10 for killing it in melee. Like, I'm happy if I know I'm probably going to kill the HQ. Every time I've taken Skulls, I think I've only ever got the 15 once. I've always got 10 for it, though. So I'm happy to kill something with Berserkers if I'm getting 10 VP. Of course, that could cost me a game, but it's also not built in to a list necessity.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I just like to have the option, you know, with the Prince, where you can just like kind of nuclear bomb his way in and just like, you know, you can be real sure when the Prince touches something, like unless it's like a Primarch or something like that, or maybe a Knight. But I would say even a Knight, like the Prince can take with a decent enough roll.
You can put some CP into him as well. But like for me, it's the CP as well. Like the Mantle build specifically, you get 4 CP if you kill your target. Well, if you roll well, like I do on it. But yeah, loads of CP basically, and that combined with the Nox lift makes late game where we're strong anyway. Yeah. Like pop the fuck off because you have.
I think our late game is crazy powerful. If you get the Skulls play, like you suddenly swing 15 points, 4 CP or up to 4 CP. Like the fuel that you have for that late game. It's crazy. Like I found myself like early game like struggling with like, okay, I can only budget for like one big strategy on this turn or whatever, that's fine. And then late game I'm like, yeah, I'll put like veterans on these guys because I got CP at the ass. You know, it's just like whatever. You can have Fury of Khorne, you can have Wild Fury. I don't really need to move you guys that far, but I'll give you Kill Me and Burn anyway, and off you go. And it's just like you get so much, you know, and you just don't know what to do with it. And your opponent's just like, you're using all this power. You just took 15 victory points. Like, it's devastating, like morale-wise for them, you know. Like in terms of like psyops that we always talk about as a meme, like if you just like look them dead in the eye and you're like, cool, I just got 15 VP, and you roll the dice and you're like, what's that? And they're like, oh, it's a 5. I'm like, cool, I just got 4 CP as well. I'm like, sorry, bro. Sorry, man.
I had a couple of turn 4s, turn 5s in last weekend where I was on like 7 or 8 CP at the start of the turn, and I was just like, cool, guess I can do whatever I want. Like, I think it's Skull, the option for 15 on Skulls and all the CP that you can get from it just can really swing a game, because then it does come down to like, it can save a game that's like you're losing narrowly because you can swing it so massively the other thing. Like maybe it's, I don't know if it's a reflection of like the tables that I was on, because I was sort of mid-table, but I've taken Skulls all 8 games that I played with the new book, and I scored 0 twice, 10 once, and 15 5 times. So last weekend I got 4 out of 5 15s, and I didn't win all of those games, but it was really powerful. The game that I didn't win, I lost by 3 points, which was my own fault for other stuff. Yeah, it's such a big swing, especially as it comes later in the game when there's just not as many resources, so you need all of the units you have to like pull their weight a bit more, and having 8-9 CP helps with that. So
yeah, and if you're playing it tight with the Red Butchers, that's typically when they're starting to get stuck into the game as well. So having a wealth of CP to fuel the Red Butchers at that point, you're like, cool, so I've swung this like little flank over here with my Demon Prince, and now the Death Ball has just gotten like such a big push, and it just rolls down the hill, and your opponent's just like, cool, this is bad. So like when they power up, like it's crazy, it's just such a big domino effect, and like because there's so many micro decisions and kind of very small scale effects, but it's like the cumulative effect of all these things happening at once that you actually just gain so much traction and power and command over the game that like I really think Skulls can be such a big swinger. It's just like annoying that like, you know, you have to talk about the other side of it as well, because like when it doesn't work, it fucking sucks. Like when you're like zeroing on a secondary or like something like that, or like it can be really just like, oh, that's so annoying. Like I had a game where it's the only game I didn't get 15 on Skulls. My Demon Prince like died pretty early, and I was just like, oh, that's just devastating. I mean, I still got 10, but I was just like, I wanted the CP, man. You know? So it can be really rough when he doesn't pop off, but it's like I remember when that secondary came out, I was like, I'm never taking this. This is stupid and bad. And now I'm like, I'm always going to try and find a way, you know?
I think sorry.
I think it is a maligned secondary. I think non-World Eaters players are not like that. That's junk, or it's average at best. I think it is a lot better than people give it credit for, because we are uniquely able to build these incredibly powerful characters, and the Demon Prince, especially with the mobility through fly, things like that, does help, and it does make it actually quite good. I just think you also have to be reasonably good at the game to do it, and not that I'm bad at the game, I just sometimes struggle in thinking, okay, who do I want to put this on? I maybe overthink it and think, okay, so if I put it on that character, they'll hold that character back, which means they're not giving that aura out, and then the other player like just completely does something different, and like my plan is foiled, and then I start, shit, how am I going to do this now? And it kind of spirals. So I think that's why I tend to score a little bit better with action-based secondaries and things like that. So it is, I think there's a bit of player agency involved in how successful you'll be with it.
It's so like dependent on your opponent as well, right? Because like, you know, someone who's running a very aggressive, we'll say like Black Templars, Blood Angels, Knights of any variety, those type of armies that tend to build towards very aggressive, powerful characters. Say, for example, if you were to play the World Eater's Mirror, right? You know, aggressive, powerful characters that are going to be getting up in your face. It's like quite good to take skulls in those situations because you're like, cool, these guys have to come towards me. My opponent can choose to play them back. If they play them in the back, that is still working in my favor because a powerful asset in their army is not coming forward to fight us. So like, even if they do try to be conservative, that's still fine because they're taking resource away from where it's going to be most effective in the game. But then you come into armies like certain Tyranid builds or Tau or like gunline sort of style armies, and you're like, man, it's going to take a while to get to those characters because they ain't coming out, and when I do get there, I might not have the resources to actually get through and get to those characters at the end of the game. So it really is super swingy. Like, I think there are some armies, like pretty much most forms of Tyranids, unless they're running a hyper-aggressive Swarm Lord, that you can confidently think that your Demon Prince with assistance can take out because he's probably Leviathan, so your Demon Prince isn't doing it by himself. So you're going to be like, cool, even if they are throwing the Swarm Lord at you, it's like, or the Hype Tyrant or whatever, it's not going to be easy to kill that guy. So like, you have all these problems. So it's definitely like, I know we talked it up, but like, you got to think of all the negatives of skulls as well, that there are just quite a lot of lists that can't really, like, you know, you can't use skulls against it. So then you have to have a backup plan. Like, I don't think you can really build a list per se that is like, oh yeah, it's going to take skulls every game, because it's like, it's quite player dependent or opponent dependent. So like, you got to factor that in as well. You have to have a backup plan of like, because I'm like, okay, cool, if I'm not taking skulls, I'm probably taking like Bring It Down or Grind or No Prisoners or something like that. You need to be able to like visualize what it's going to look like if you can't have that option.
I think so. The games that I've scored poorly or scored 0 on it have been Tau, as you mentioned, and then Thousand Suns, which was a buffing sorcerer at the back. I picked their like, the chaplain one that they had, and he just held him back because he was a very good player. So yeah, as I say, I think I will likely stop using skulls as much if I start competing a bit more at a higher level, because at the moment I'm very much mid tables, I think. And then, but it is, I think we are uniquely positioned. If it wasn't for the Demon Prince, specifically the Demon Prince, I probably would never take it. I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
he's had quite a bit of a glow up and a points reduction for the new book, and I think that alone makes the secondary viable. And obviously we've got a lot of powerful relics and powerful warlord traits now, that we can beef him up with if we want to go all out offense. I am very much looking forward to mine and Dara's Demon Prince on a duel in Nottingham, because you better believe you're doing well.
It is big, dude. Yeah, there's a big narrative thing that we got going on for that, but we can we'll talk about that another time maybe. But yeah, that's really cool. We'll talk about that if I do well. If not, we just won't talk about it again. I think will be the best option. But yeah, you're so right that like without the Demon Prince, he is so uniquely positioned at being a good unit for skulls for the Skull Throne. The Disco Lord as well is also quite good, but
not
the Demon
always
Prince
as good.
Exactly right. The Demon Prince has this ability to just jump, you know, and he has this ability to continuously position in a way where you're like kind of psyching out your opponent if they're trying to withhold that character, that you're like, ooh, he's coming forward, he's getting closer. And that's why I really like having the Spawn in my list, because typically they surround the Demon Prince and they're just like, cool, he can kind of like operate in that way where he's like jumping around and the Spawn are just like, ooh, our Lord and Savior, the Demon Prince, you know, or else he's just like, you know, bodying people in the mid-table with the Red Butchers, being like, I'm going to jump out, I'm going to get your guy hanging out in the back, no problem, he's coming for you. Without that mobility, you really struggle to find a character that is so versatile at being where you need him to be at the right time. Like, a lot of our characters just wouldn't be able to get across the board fast enough, you know? It's just easier to play around it, and the big base helps too as well, of course. So there's a lot going in the Demon Prince's favor, and I think without him, I probably wouldn't be taking skulls as much either, if at all.
I think there's also a massive amount of finesse we can do about picking targets, like what kind of characters are best to pick, and for each army, and like, because there is that like psychological aspect of if you pick it, they'll keep it back. But if it's a character if they keep it back, it's so detrimental to their overall game. So like the Death Guard game, I picked his Fight Last guy as my Skull's target, and it was like, okay, well, either you leave him back and then I'll just mince the rest of your army in combat, or you bring him forwards and I get 15 and 4 CP. And he brought him forwards in the end, and I did kill him. He literally brought him up behind 15 Blight Lords, and my Demon Prince jumped over the top and charged him. But yeah, like it's there's a lot of finesse that I don't think anyone has really worked out yet.
Yeah,
I love it though. That it's like my favorite part is that moment where you're standing there and you're surveying the enemy army and you're just like, what is the play? Where's it going? And it is a different experience in every game. Like, when I was playing Thousand Suns, I had that instance where I knew there was a sorcerer who was going to come up and like buff all the Terminators and then teleport away, and I was like, cool, I'll go for the Khorne play, and it pulled off and he's just stuck on the front line, and I'm like, all right, see you later. And then like you have things like the Blood Angel game where I'm like, I know it's going to be your Sanguinary Priest because he's going to have to move up and he's going to have to buff everyone, and if he's not there you can't be putting people in certain doctrines, blah blah blah. So I'm like, cool, that's another good target, and you kind of just work through it like that. But you have this, it's just so cool being able to like look at your opponent and be like, make your play, bring that guy out. I'm cool with that. Like, do you want to give me those points kind of a vibe? And I'm really excited to like play into people who aren't aware of how my army works, because like psyching them out like that is going to be so much fun. Just being like, just to let you know, if you move from there, yeehaw.
This is the thing for me. I stick him in a staging building and then chuck everything else forwards, and then it's like, oh, you've got a Demon Prince in there, have you? What character is mine again? Oh, it's that one that's like 8 inches away, by the way.
Yeah.
Make him worry about everything else that you're sending forwards.
Yeah.
And they'll eventually forget that he's there. Like cultists are always forgotten. Yeah, they'll forget they're there, and then it'll suddenly be like, hello, I can go 24 inches this turn, and now I get 15 points.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Like, I mean, obviously we deep dove into that secondary, but like, what secondaries, guys, are you like finding yourselves regularly taking, or what secondaries with these current lists that you're running do you envision yourself taking a lot?
I can give you some stats. I've got some stats. I generally like Mark's write up of secondaries in the Discord was really good. So generally, I've been taking like Shadow Ops every time, at least one Shadow Ops. Banners on the overrun mission where you can get onto 3 turn 1, but like, I'll look at banners anytime I can get 2 up first turn, to be honest.
Yeah.
Depending on forward deploys, fast obsec, fast units in general, that kind of thing. And then so Shadow Ops first, and then a lot of like kill secondaries, just because they are fun and easier to play the game with. Especially our army, which doesn't really want to be trying to stand in certain parts of the board because we don't have that much shooting. So anything that is run screaming at the enemy and kill them is a better secondary as far as I'm concerned. It's just easier. and it reduces like decision fatigue as well, like in game for us as players, I think. If your decision is like, do I go onto that and put a banner up, or do I go slightly over the objective to kill the unit, like the other side of it, and get points that way? Yeah, like there's less decision if you're just taking a kill secondary than that. So I've taken Skulls all 8 games. I've taken the Long War 4 out of 8 games. No Prisoners 3. For the Dark Gods, I've taken 3 times as well. What else? Engage once, Behind Enemy Lines once, Nephilim Data once, Raise the Banners twice, and Abhor the Witch once. Since the new book. That's across 8
That's
games.
a pretty decent spread. I don't have. I mean, I could look it up. I can't be bothered of the ones I've done because I don't lay all my stuff out as efficiently as you, Jack. I just But I generally, I almost every game take banners or R&D. Like again, similar depending on what mission it is. Banners is nice depending on the opponent, or R&D if I don't, if that's the only other choice. I don't really like God Rod. I just can't see myself scoring more than 2 quadrants on it. I just, because I often screw up R&D as it is, so making it even more complicated, I ain't about that. I've taken skulls quite a lot. Like I said, I don't think, or maybe I've maxed it once or something. But I do that for me as a backup. I don't mind throwing it on my Terminator Lord. Does have a 2 damage weapon. Still quite a decent amount of attacks. But the reason, another reason I have the Terminator Lord in my list is because the first mission of my GT is Tides of Conviction, right? So that's the kind of the whopper-jawed, weird objective placement. And typically people only use, you stage to take half of the battlefield, right? Because of the way it's designed. It's like the map should be pivoted by the end of round 1. And half of your deployment zone is wasted space because you don't need to put anything there. So I'm taking the Terminators and the Terminator Lord for behind enemy lines. That way my opponent either has to commit 1 or 2 units to screen out part of the battlefield which will never get touched, or they give me a position to deep strike in 2 units in round 2 in their back line to just lawn mow across for the rest of the game. Because then they'll also have to keep quite powerful assets back there to be able to slow down Red Butchers. Because if you just keep like a couple of squads of tactical marines or equivalent, they're just going to take the free movement, and then they'll be even more dangerous much quicker. So you actually have to leave some dreadnought type things back there, or what have you. Because the other missions in the GT are the 2 quadrant ones and then the 2 angled deployment zone corners. So it's 4 corners, 4 corner missions, and Tides of Conviction. Corner missions are generally quite easy for secondaries, whether I take Engage and R&D or what have you. I think I can score reasonably well on those. But my list isn't specifically designed to do secondaries as well, because like as we've had this discussion, I'm really trying to flip it around to be better at the primary game, both scoring more primary and reducing my opponent's primary. Again, this is why the deep strike options are in there, because I just love taking my opponent's points from them. It's really fun, and having 6 obsec units, 3 of which are berserkers who will probably clear a primary, and cultists doing the bullshit with Tide of Traitors to like leap up, trying to sort of figure out little tricks where I can get an obsec body on a point and just take it from you or outnumber you on it or whatever. And it's going to take me a few more games. It's going to take me a couple more months, I think, to get somewhat good at that. But I think there's play in that, and I want to get it to where I can almost consistently, unless I'm utterly outplayed, score 45 on primary. I want to be able to know I can get a 45 primary game versus my opponent's 30. And then I'll worry more about my secondary choices, because I'm just shit at them. If I can score 20 on secondaries, I'm okay. Like, that's good enough for me. But yeah, what about you, Darryl? What are you teching? Like, what's your...
I think you make a really interesting point that I'm kind of like leaning into as well. That like I'm actually teching towards primary as well. Like primary swings. I think pretty much all the games I've won has been 40+ on the primary. And like it's just kind of how my list wins games, because like it can live in the middle for long enough to basically prevent my opponent from maxing their primary, is kind of how it operates. Yeah. But secondary wise, Skulls is always a consideration, as we've deep dived into. Nephilim data is what I have the Raptor squads built for. And it's really easy for me to get 3 points on Nephilim. 4 is always a possibility if the game is going in the direction I want it to. But yeah, like Jack, I'll always pull one from Shadow Ops. For the Dark Gods, I do not like. It's just too many criteria to fill. Even though it is like a nicer scoring than Nephilim. It's an interesting one, but the times that I've taken it, I've been like, no. So yeah, Banner's still good. Player dependent or opponent dependent, the Long War can be really good for me, because if it's stuff like Drakari or Craftworlders or like other Marines, where it's kind of like every turn they're going on objectives and every turn I'm flipping them off those objectives. Anything that has like lots and lots of MSUs, it's super easy to get Long War. obviously, if I'm playing into something like Knights or Tau, it doesn't really work. So you got to think about stuff like Bring It Down or Grind in those situations. But yeah, typically it's going to be like Nephilim every single time. Skulls, I would say the majority of the time. I will find a way of bringing Skulls. And then the last one is very much down to like, what's my opponent bringing? Like, if it's Thousand Suns, it's Abhor. You know, if it's like Marines, it's the Long War. If it's blah blah blah, it's this. You know, I kind of have like a matrix of like, if I'm playing this, I'm probably taking this. And there's very few armies for. Sorry, go on.
What are your characters? You've got the Demon Prince, an Apostle, and a Master of Executions, right?
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, Jack. What were your characters?
Demon Prince, Dark Apostle, and Baden.
Right. Have you guys looked at Rise to Glory? As it like if you're going against Tyranids, for instance, where Skulls isn't necessarily the best choice?
Yeah, absolutely. I really like Rise to Glory as well. It's like one of the ones where it's like, cool, I'm not bringing Skulls. Can I take Rise to Glory? Like, do they have lots of vehicles and monsters?
Yep.
Do they have all these other things? It's a good way to get CP as well and stuff like that, you know? It's like, I do really like Rise to Glory, but it's because it's always like Skulls or Rise to Glory, right? Yeah. You know? And then it's like really difficult if you play into Knights because you're like, ooh.
Yeah, right.
Both would be nice.
Yeah. Could you imagine if they'd have just given us the option for both? Because there's been a few games where I'm like, man. Like, especially when I was running the Demon Prince and the Disco Lord. So I think I played against, I played Don and he had like 5 rhinos or something. I was like, man, that'd be so nice to do them both, you know. But yeah,
absolutely, yeah. No, it's good. I mean, like I've really come around to the Chaos secondaries. It's really weird. Like the only one that I think is like bad per se is like for the Dark Gods, which is weird because like I thought that one was the only good one at the start, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's so typical that it's like as you get used to things, you're like, oh, actually, maybe they did know what they were doing when they wrote this one.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's cool. I mean, yeah, my secondaries are like quite malleable though, I would say. Like it's just super dependent, which is like how they should be, right? It's kind of stupid if you're like, oh, every single game I'm bringing this, you know. It's like it's not really how secondaries are supposed to work. You're supposed to try and body them on the primary, which is what my list is designed to do. So yep.
Yeah. All right, let me look at chat here because I haven't really sort of touched on anything. I've been fairly quiet, or chat's broken and we're not actually streaming, I'm not sure. So we had the audio stuff here. Oh, Sarge Joel's there. He says his Butcher's tanked about 1,200 points of Imperial Knight shooting, thanks to probably Black Rune and cover and stuff. Freitas is there. Mark is mentions about the mantle being like the 4 CP like mantle play. It is real nice. It is like if you can get 4 CP for killing like your opponent's sort of like character that they've been trying to protect, it's like win more at that point, really, isn't it? It's a shame we can't replace Hellbrutes with Venom Crawlers as elite choices instead of them being elites. Yeah. Predators for shooting. Lee's in there. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I played around with the idea of Predators, to be honest. I don't hate them. They very much kind of sit in the same place as the Hellbrute for me, though, right? Where it's kind of like...
I think Hellbrute's better than a Predator.
Yeah, it is. It is. But
Predators don't have enough shots to be good. They're like... They're cheap and tough to say now. But, like, for me, they just don't have the quality of shots. Because, like, why take a Predator when you can take a Vindicator at the same point?
Right, yeah. It's just they're not consistent, right? It's like... Yeah, they're fucking las cannons. They slap now, but like, it's just 2 dice. Like,
well, and you're also shooting them at stuff that's more than likely got a 4-up or a 5-up invuln.
Right,
and you know, so they're going to save one of them. If you manage to hit and wound with both, they're going to save one. You'll roll a 2 or 3 on the dice. You'll do 5 damage. They'll reduce it by 1. Oh, great! You got 74 wounds left on your Tyranid, fucking prick. Whatever the hell it is, you know, it's going to be something like that. Because like when I ran the Land Raider, even having 4 shots with the Soul Shatters just wasn't enough. So I don't think, and I don't even want to look at the autocannon Predator. It's just...
It's more expensive and just worse. It's just weird.
Well, it's 10 points cheaper, but worse.
Is it?
Not anyone with Armor Contempo, right? Because it's only AP1, right? The autocannon?
Yes, it's only AP1, yeah. The Las Predator is 10 points more than the autocannon. I think the Las Predator is the Destructor, but it don't matter.
Right.
Here's some spice. Sarge Joels says Havocs are shockingly fairly good at holding their own in combat. I had no idea they got 3 or 4 attacks each. Yeah, I mean...
I actually ran Havocs in my infantry horde list. I had Havocs every time. And it was really funny because I just moved them up the board with the Red Butchers. And they were just like behind them. And then they would just charge in when the Red Butchers charged in. And they pick up because they get so many attacks. And they're like decent, you know? Like I popped like Fury of Khorne on them and they were just like, yeah, cool, it doesn't matter. And I like Havocs a lot.
There isn't really anything we run which is awful in combat. Like I sort of made a joke about it, but like a Rhino on the charge, you know, if you've got the Dark Apostle with the reroll hits up, you can throw Wild Fury on a Rhino. You can get 4 attacks, hitting on 6s, exploding, with a reroll, strength 6 or 7. I mean, combat Rhinos are real, man. And don't get me started on combat Land Raiders. Like Land Raider gets 7 attacks on the charge, but yeah, definitely Havocs aren't too bad. I just think the 15 points for Mark of Khorne would just be nice if it was, you know, either not mandatory or it was something different.
5 points would be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we've got Vindicators being good is, I feel, the best thing in the world. Oh, this is Long John. Is that you, Fair Rarity? I believe you said it was. Yes. Okay, Long John is Fair Rarity. Vindicators being good is, I feel, the best thing in the world. It's nice. Vindicators do feel good, and it's nice to see them in Chaos Space Marine lists, especially. Like, now we're really starting to see that gulf between, like, basically the Phobos Marines now versus, like, old school but reinvigorated Chaos Space Marines with the vehicles and stuff. Like, we're seeing more Land Raiders and Predators and Vindicators on the tabletop.
I'm just enjoying all the comments that I'm seeing of like loyalist players being like, when are we gonna get, you know, D6 plus 2 last guy? I am literally just like, cry more, you know, cry more. You got a whole edition of your codex. Like I don't fucking care. I literally just don't care. No.
Not having that.
Then we got Lehman Russ in here, says hello. He's running all infantry currently. Long John is fair. Currently building a chair. Okay. Preston's here. I feel like Rise to Glory should have a part where it says if the character is in engagement range or like 6 inches away from the character, vehicle monster dies. Yeah, because like the need to have it be your character that does the killing is like the worst part of Rise to Glory. And just having it close to it, or some minor change to it, I think would be fair, right? Because Rise to Glory is not amazing. It's good, but it's not amazing. It just needs a little adjustment.
Yeah, right, for sure.
I've kind of like, it's something that I had to be honest. I haven't looked at it. I had to just reach my book and read what it actually was, because I just what Dara said about for the Dark Gods is that for me it feels like too many criteria that you have to meet, and maybe it's because I haven't played Knights yet, and into Knights I can see something like that being good. I also reread it and it's Traitoris Asati's characters, so that means Abaddon can do it in a World Eaters army. So maybe, but I think
I wouldn't know anything about that. I'm not. I don't try hard enough to put Abaddon in list, to be honest. So, but it's nice that the people who do that can.
When's your Jack? When's your tournament at the primary school where you're taking Abaddon versus all the kids?
Yeah, that's actually it's the day before Jack gets dropped from the team. You know?
Is it?
Tell everyone on stream about it, Jack. Defend yourself.
Yeah.
There's a 1,000-point tournament that I'm going to kill out at that I'm not going to run World Eaters, I don't think, because you guys are bullying me. I'm going to run Creations of Vile or something. I don't know. It's a 1,000-point tournament. It's on 6x4 boards. It's very exciting.
It's on 6x4.
Yeah.
It's not 6x4. It's not even 60x44. 6x4 boards.
And it's 1,000 points. No one's gonna get to each other, dude.
Well, you say that, but it's just so the deployment zones are measured from the middle, and so are the objectives. So it's just going to be really deep deployment zones.
Super deep. Yeah.
Oh god.
There's going to be a really big patch in the middle where everything happens, and then just dead space that you just have to reach over.
Just like 8th edition, beautiful.
Yeah. So the list that I've currently got for that is kind of try hard, and it involves at 1,000 points 10 Red Butchers and Abaddon, and some other stuff. But the important part is the 700 points in 10 Red Butchers and Abaddon.
Yeah.
But
well, no, the important part is that all the other players are under 10 years old, and you used a legal loophole to be able to play it.
The only reason you've read into that they're all kids is that it's 1,000 points, right? And what does that say about you? That you're assuming people that play other modes of the game are automatically kids?
Ooh, shots fired. This man has
point.
been to a Highlander.
That's fair. That's fair.
1,000 points are wild. Anything can happen at an 1,000 point event. Like literally anything is on the cards.
It's almost like there's too much choice of ridiculous skew lists, because I sent a list over to you guys as well that was Abaddon, a Lord of Skulls, and 5 Berserkers, and that's it. That's the list.
I think like 1,000 point games and tournaments are like, that is where like the true madmen of 40k come out to play, because they're like, anything could work. Custodes at 1,000 points break the entire game because nothing can kill them at 1,000 points except for a Lord of Skulls and a bat. This is, I mean, like if you were to like break down, I really would love someone to deep dive into the stats of like the 1,000 point RTTs that are played across the world and just be like, cool, what does that meta look like? You know, because it would be lunacy.
The thing is, I've been reading the missions. They look so fun. They're like borderline
They're
narrative.
so weird.
It's amazing.
Yeah, they're so weird.
The second mission of the weekend that I'm going to, your warlord gets out OBSEC. OBSEC. And the objective...
Why not?
The objective is to hold the middle. So I'm going to stomp 10 Red Butchers with 6 Flamers in, and Abaddon with OBSEC, onto the middle objective with Transhuman to hit and say, come at me.
God. Oh...
That's the point. It's a beautiful thing.
Versus some 9-year-old playing Imperial Guard for the first time.
Johnny's first Ultramarines, and it's not looking good.
He's got tactical Marines and shit.
No, not the tactical Marines.
Combat Hellbrew or Combat Dreadnoughts.
It's not like proper tryharding. It's not ITC registered, so it's fine.
Yeah. That's okay. I just love giving you a hard time for it, mate, because it's hilarious.
I love 1,000 point events. I just love how wild they are, and I love the people that show up. They're just like, "Yep, we're here to just do some crazy shit and see what happens."
Just doing lines of coke off the table and Jaeger bombs through the eyeball and stuff.
Doing lines of coke off the table, right?
That was what my primary school was like. I don't know about you. Anyway, the next comment, back to Sergeant Joel, says, how do you feel about Havocs with 2 Laz and 2 Reapers? I don't know, for me, if I run Havocs, so we'll see what you guys think. If I run Havocs, I run 4 of the same weapon. Typically at the moment, it's anytime I have run, it's been Reapers. But I can see the argument for las cannons or missile launchers or even auto cannons. What about you guys?
I like missiles, because missiles have duality. So it's kind of like, if you bring 2 las cannons and 2 Reapers, is you could just bring missiles and then they can do both of those things. But
for me, I think because if you're bringing Havoc, you're looking at ways to maximize them, synergies that you can get on them, and the only real one I can think of, there's obviously the Demon Shell strat, which is
the heavy bolters.
It still doesn't make them good. Even with that CP, head rolls are still not good. So the best way to maximize Havocs, as far as I can tell, in a World Eaters list is a Dark Apostle with the Khorne prayer for exploding 6s throughout the game. Maybe, but then that's 110 points buffing 130, which is not a worthwhile investment, I don't think. So. Maybe I am sleeping on Havocs, but I don't think.
I think you go Reapers, and I think something like Stoke the Nails is fine on them to put them in all 3 doctrines.
Stoke the Nails only puts people in slaughter.
Yeah. Oh, is it?
Prayer is the one that puts them in all 3.
Oh fuck. I haven't cheated doing that, but I've just been talking about...
Man, you guys are demons for cheating. What is with this try-hard mentality? Jeez.
You're the guy who's talking about how you can put the Silent King in your Chaos Space Marine list. I mean...
I don't think I said that.
Anyway.
You bring the Silent King to Nottingham, Dara.
Yeah, sure, man. Let's see if he makes it across the ocean in the plane. Like, that is just not going to end well.
That famously easy to transform model, yeah.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
Alright. Then Lehman, with my current infantry, it's all melee, not a single bit of shooting. Big respect for that. Then last comment, okay. Good, we're almost at the end, guys, don't worry. B. Davis says, hey guys, what loadout would you recommend for a 10-man Red Butcher squad? So I think I'm running mine with as many flamers as I can get in there. I don't put extra weapons like extra accursed or chain fists on there, just because it's too hard for me to remember weird math. That way I know exactly how many attacks I've got. I've got 51 attacks on the charge, and I just take away 5 for every casualty and do that twice. If you throw in chain fists and stuff, you have to start doing actual numbers, and I'm not doing that. But yeah, what about you guys? If you were going to run a full squad of 10 Red Butchers, would you max everything out, or would you just still stick with like 2 or 3 flamers or what have you?
So I think I'd probably max guns. I know there are arguments for chain fist particularly now, because you can negate the -1 now with the Wrath of the Chosen. But for me the shooting, like the output they can get, like combi bolters are fine, like in terms of volume into surprising amounts of things. I really like the duality that Flamers gives them, because it then matters less if you get charged, which is more likely to happen because they're quite slow. Because you can just overwatch, and like with 4 combi Flamers, that's 4d6 plus 8 shots. 2 heavy Flamers is another 2d6 plus 4. That's putting a dent in whatever charges you. Like I overwatched 3 Winds of the Nightbrew last weekend, and that was only with 3 Flamers. So, but it's. My gut says Flamers. I've seen people running Melters with Wrath of the Chosen. They're suddenly a lot more reliable if you have like 4 of them in there. So I can see an argument for that. My tank at the moment is Vindicator, so that's why I'm running Flamers rather than Melters. But so Chain Fist maybe, Accursed Weapons I think more than do the job, because you can get up strength 8 Stoke, so which is a great point.
Definitely. Dara?
I actually like opposite. I'm running like all combi bolters, just because like speed of dice rolling. I'm like, nah, man, I ain't got time in the chess clock for that kind of stuff. But I do have a chain fist on my aspiring champion because play a game where he was the last guy left in the squad and he went through 2 Goliath rock grinders by himself, and I was like, cool, chain fist is definitely never being taken off this guy again.
Okay.
Because it's ridiculously good into vehicles and stuff. I'm just like, yep, cool, chain fist is amazing.
Yeah, fair enough. I think there's definitely. I don't think there's a wrong way to build them, and there are less efficient ways. Like if you have, exactly like Dara said, like multiple weapon types. If you're like absolutely insane, like someone like Mark, and you've got like 2 plasma, 2 melter, 2 flamers, a power fist, a chain fist. You've got so many different dice pools you need to be rolling, where you need to be a very fast player to be able to manage that. I throw the flamers in just because my Terminators are my like piece de resistance in my list. They are what my investment's in. Everything else, I'll speed play them. I'm happy to absorb a charge or use those flamers to dig something out of cover. Whatever it is, right? But yeah, I don't think there's a wrong way to run Terminators, because if you're spending the 2 CP on them, throwing an extra 20-30 points of equipment upgrades, why not? Yeah. They're going to be killing stuff. I don't think you should do with Red Butchers is put the Black Mace or the Special Sword on there. I don't think they need CP upgrades to their offensive output, because whatever they touch is dying. The Chain Fist, is a slight difference because it's specifically good against vehicles, and that can actually speed up your game. If you hit a Dreadnought, you just roll the champion first. Oh, you got rid of the Dreadnought, good game.
It's literally what I've been doing. When I go into vehicles. I'm like, cool, I'll roll the champion first. A lot of the time he just one-taps them, and I'm like, alright, sweet.
Yeah, exactly.
it's like AP4 and goes to flat damage 3 against crystals, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, like there's not much that's surviving that. So, but yeah, I think I mean that covers our comments. I think we've been over our list. We kind of Jack, what are you hoping to go at Leeds? There's 5 games, right? Are you going to?
I think I normally shoot for, or have been more recently, normally been shooting for 3 and 2, so I'll be happy with that.
Okay.
I'm kind of in a weird spot where I'm still testing stuff though, so like 2 and 3 is fine.
That kind of down the middle, which is fair enough. Dara, like again, what are you hoping for?
Oh, for a solid 2-1-2.
Oh, okay, bit of spice.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, but I mean, realistically, I envision that I will go 2 and 3. Anything above that, I will be incredibly pleased with.
Yeah, that's fair. I just want to. I would love to go 3 and 2. My last GT, I went 2-1-2. So I just want to. I want my GTs to get better. I want my results to get better. I think because mine is a bit of a smaller GT. I want to say there's only 40, maybe 44 players, something like that. It's my local group and it's the first GT they've ran, so it's the first GT that's actually local to me. So I don't know. I would like to go 3 and 2. I think that's really what skill-wise where I'm at. That's the upper limit of what I can get at the moment. So yeah, I think okay. Like between the 3 of us, you know, it'd be 15 games. We want to get at least 6 wins, okay? But you know,
let's just aim to collectively break even, okay, guys? Come on.
Well,
carry me.
No, we need 8 wins out of 15 games between
just
the 3
carry
of
me,
us,
guys,
okay?
please.
But yeah, okay. But I think that about sums it up for today, guys. I think we've covered everything. We talked about our list. We've done some kind of tech theory into a couple of secondaries and tactical plays, which was pretty interesting. Hopefully, covered the chat. I'm good if you guys are.
Yeah, man. All good here.
I think the only other thing is that obviously I'm able to go 1-0 on Friday as well. Well, I'd expect to, but you know.
No further comments.
Oh god, please one of you record some of that game. Just 100%, record some highlights.
100%, yeah.
Alright, I'm going to shut it off there. Everyone, thanks for watching, thanks for chatting and being here and hanging out and stuff. But yeah, that'll do it from us. So until next time, stay healthy, stay safe and kill main burn.